Welcome to the Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals, Tuesday, November 12th, 2024 meeting. This is a hybrid meeting, and if you're dialing in on a phone, please use *6 to mute yourself and unmute yourself. We're being taped by MCTV. And I'll start with a roll call since Roe's online. Go ahead, Larry.
Larry Keane here.
Brian Sullivan, present.
Brian Murphy here.
Heidi Conway here.
Jean Lee.
Mac Brothers here.
Renzi here.
All right. And we're going to go out of order. Andrew, would you mind if we could start with G 2477, Michelle and Brian Lenahan?
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Yeah. Michelle and Brian Lenahan. 2477, the petitioners are seeking a variance in accordance with 305-1011 of the Marshfield Municipal Code for relief from 305-607 accessory buildings to construct a 12-foot by 14-foot shed within 10 feet of the lot line on the property located at 7 Marginal Street, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel M05-11-02 and is located in the R3 zoning district. Go ahead.
So we had the surveyor come out and actually look at the property. They gave us sort of where we should be putting it. I think we provided the picture of that as part of the documentation. So we set from Steinbeck and Taylor, based on where we were putting it. We were looking for, as opposed to 10 feet by each of the boundaries we were putting in the back corner, 5 feet in on each side. And that would still leave us with 13 feet from the corner of the structure to the back of the deck.
Okay. Andrew, do you want to add anything other than your comments, or? Anything from the board on this?
Well, I drove down to this neighborhood, and there are numerous sheds all throughout the neighborhood. I don't see this being much different than what's existing in the neighborhood.
Have you talked to your neighbors? Do they mind that it's going to be a little bit closer to the fence?
Just the one that's right on the other side of the fence. They said they don't care.
Yeah, so there's two corners. One corner we talked to, the other one is, we have not.
Okay. And the other one doesn't mind. Which one on the picture?
The
So
one on
the-
Beach Street.
The one on Beach,
Okay,
the next one up on Marginal,
okay,
not really.
okay. Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if, okay.
The standard for the granting of a variance is extraordinarily high, and virtually no one meets the standard under the law. So what you're asking for is to violate the law or to prove that there's some reason to violate the law, which is what the definition of a variance is. Now, I understand that people want them and they want an exception to the law, but virtually nobody meets the legal standard. So what you're asking for, from my reading of your application and the lot, is to deviate from what everyone else has to do because there's some compelling reason. You just don't want to locate the shed where it should go. You want to push it back closer to the fence. And I understand it's desirable, but I don't see any reason to violate the law to put the shed closer to the fence, other than it would aesthetically look better. And you've not articulated any reason why you should be given a variance from the standard that everyone else has to apply to in the town of Marshfield.
I beg to differ. I very rarely see any shed that's anything.
I'm talking
10 by 10.
specifically about your lot. What is unique
That
about
is the only
shape
place-
and topography of your lot that you can't put the shed, you can't have the shed comply with the setback?
Because if the shed was closer, say it was 10 by 10, it would be basically, it would break the variance to the distance between the corner of the shed and the house, right? Isn't that part of the law?
13 feet.
This is the only place that Steinbeck and Taylor said we could do it, otherwise in our front lawn.
For that
This would-
size shed.
8 by 8, so 10 feet by 10 feet, it would still be breaking the variance.
You're saying it would still be in the setback area?
Yes.
And there's no place on the lot where any shed could go?
So it's the front yard is 2 streets. It's on the corner of 2 streets. The driveway, and there's 2 driveways.
Yeah, so there's 2 driveways, so
As
as
you
you're
said.
looking at it, there's all sorts of stipulations within the Marshfield law on how far it has to be from the street and how far it has to be.
Those are setbacks that everyone in the town has to comply with.
Completely understand. So there's no place on that lot that I would be able to put a shed, that I would need any type of variance, like an 8 by 8 wouldn't serve the needs of, storing what we need. It would still be too close to the house based on your variance.
Based on the setbacks.
Well, yeah, based on the setbacks or however the law is written. So, we went through the appropriate process, bringing in the surveys to do a site plan to be able to provide this. So I'm sort of at a loss of what you're looking for from me on this.
What I'm trying to understand is why you need the relief that you're asking for. That's what I'm trying to work through with you. And again, everyone in town has to comply with the setback requirements, front yard, side yard, et cetera. And then you're also talking about the setback from the dwelling. What I'm hearing from you is that your situation is unique because you have a lot with 2 front yard setbacks, and you because it's then a triangle, you've got side yard setbacks from on 2 sides, or excuse me, a rear yard setback on 2 sides, so that in order to have a functional shed, you have to be in the encroaching area. That's what I'm understanding what you're saying. And unfortunately, your survey doesn't show any of the setbacks, so we're at a loss to understand that just looking at the map.
Also, the area he's looking at to put it, he was saying, if you put it in his front yard, he's gonna be in the corner of Beach Street and Marginal Street. Would we have an issue with visibility coming down Marginal and looking up Beach Street? Is he gonna have a visibility issue there?
So to your point, Larry, putting the shed in the front yard is going to solve one problem and create another.
Yeah.
There's almost 31 feet between the deck and the fence in total. My math is right. So that's 3 10s in my math.
This is 13 and 14.
13, 12.
Is it 27 feet?
It says 29.6 on the setback
Okay.
on the
Okay.
plan.
Yeah. But when you add the 13.7 and the 12 of the structure and then the 5.2.
5.2, yeah.
At that structure, that's 30.9. So it could be a 10-foot shed, and you're at the setbacks. You don't need a variance.
Right,
Actually,
You can do that as a matter of right. You don't need us.
yeah.
right.
So we could do a 10 by 12 or a 10 by 10?
10 by 20, whatever you want.
10 by 20, yeah.
But it still has to be,
Extend the shed towards Beach Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
Or
20
extend it
foot, that's a
towards
20
Beach
foot
Street.
setback on Beach Street. So you have a
So not-
10 foot on the back lot line and the side lot line. You have 2 fronts, which means you have to be 20 feet either way on the front. But if you did it, from what, sounds like from what Mac's saying, if you did a 10-foot shed, it would work by whatever length you want, because you can go up to 20 feet off the front lot line.
More rectangular than square.
But it still has to be with a 10-foot variance?
No, you don't need a variance.
You don't need the variance. Just
Oh.
just
need a
10
building
feet setback.
Just need a building
You
permit.
just need the building permit.
Okay.
So the suggestion is go 10 by 10.
No, it's 10 by
No,
No,
no, just put anything we want.
10 by,
10 by whatever.
Fill in your
You can-
name.
Whatever you can fit in
okay,
there.
Okay.
all right.
And you can go up to 20 feet off the front lot line, so.
You see what he means, where it says proposed shed?
Yeah.
In that direction.
Instead of, instead of the 12 foot, instead of the 12-foot width,
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
it 10, and then the length could be, as long as you fit the setbacks.
So we read the law differently. I thought anything over, or having conversations with the building department, anything over 8 by 8, I had to come in front of this committee.
No, you just need a permit, anything over 8
8 by 8, you don't need a permit at all. You'd be able to
Okay.
install an 8 by 8 shed.
Okay,
Anything bigger than that, you need a permit.
all right.
So we can't have the
12 by 14.
12 by
Well,
14? Is that what you're saying?
Well, you're asking us to give you a variance on, you have to give us a hardship. Like, we've done something like this before, but it was because the backyard flooded,
Yeah,
had a year-round flood there, so we had to move it out of the floodplain.
okay.
We need some, like I said, to meet the variance, like Brian's saying, standard, but it looks like from what Mac's saying, you could go, get similar square footage.
You could
10 by
have larger
16.
square footage.
Yeah.
10 by 16
yeah.
gives you the same square footage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just takes an additional piece of the yard, which we don't have a lot
Yeah.
of, so, okay.
That isn't a hardship, I think, right?
No.
Okay.
All right?
All right, so,
So, Bob, we can either let them withdraw, or do we have to vote on this?
If you want to allow them to withdraw, that's an option that you have.
Yeah.
I would prefer that they be allowed to withdraw without
Yeah,
prejudice,
I would too,
rather than deny it, because then they're precluded from coming back for 2
in
years.
case something goes wrong.
Before they withdraw, could we just extend it for a while so they can get everything straightened out with Andrew? So they're still on the agenda if they need to be?
Just remember, like, the 8-by-8 shed may not require a building permit, but it still has to be set back 10 feet.
But no, I
Oh, yes.
understand.
Yeah.
So,
No, they just misunderstood.
so with,
Go ahead, Andrew.
I'll say if they submit a building permit tomorrow that shows a 10 by whatever shed, and it's 10 feet off the rear line, 10 feet off the sideline, and at least 10 feet off the house, we'll issue that building permit immediately.
You don't need any
They
variance.
won't need zoning approval. It was simply because of they wanted it 5 feet from the lot line on the back in the corner and pushed back in that corner. It's why they're here for the variance.
okay,
If they, all the other things, we'll give them a building permit immediately.
okay,
You can have a building permit tomorrow.
and it has to be 10,
whatever.
It just has to fit within, you have to need a 10-foot setback on either side on that fence where you have
Yep.
2 5s, and 10 feet off the house.
okay,
Perfect.
okay,
All right?
Yep.
all right.
Do you want to withdraw without prejudice?
We do.
Okay, so withdraw without prejudice.
Larry Keane,
Second.
aye?
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye?
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Grover? Yeah, well, that's 5 votes. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Does someone want to go grab Heidi?
She next door?
I think she's sitting in the break room.
No, same thing you were doing when I was at it.
Yeah.
Right, so 2471 Kimberly Lane. The petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-1012 and 305-1301 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to construct a 24-foot by 24-foot deck add 5 feet to create a 12-foot by 14-foot entryway and an 8-foot by 22-foot second-story front addition on the property located at 11 Adams Road, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel L1009. 11 is located in the R3 zoning district. Name and address for the record?
Yeah, my name is Steve Wiles. I'm a general contractor representing Kimberly Lane.
Okay,
And,
go ahead.
okay, there's three things that are going on here. First, there's an existing bump out on the back of the house, which is 7 by 14. What we propose to do is go back another 5 feet to make it 12 by 14. That's on the left-hand side of the lot line. The second thing is, there was an existing deck that went right to the lot line on the left and went across the 14 feet that the bump out on the back is, and that was rotted. We took it down for safety reasons. And what we want to do is put a bigger deck, but pull it away from the lot line, so it's 12 feet from the lot line. And then do a 24 by 24 wrapped around the new addition on the back, which would be 12 by 14. Then the next thing would be, there's an existing porch on the first floor of this house that's enclosed. And where it's not to code as far as the setback from the street, we'd just like to go up straight, which the neighbor has done previously. And all they want to do on the second floor is just enlarge the 2 existing bedrooms that are there.
So you're not creating a new encroachment, you're just going up.
Correct.
Anyone have any questions?
I like architectural, I like how you're consistent with the neighborhood.
Thank you.
It's an attractive design.
Everything else was like.
Andrew or Bob, you guys have anything other than what you've given us? Anything from the board?
I'm good.
Anything from the audience? Seeing that there is none, I'm going to move that we close 11 Adams Road.
Second.
Second,
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye. Jean Lee, aye.
Ike Brothers, aye.
Grover? He's out there? Doesn't matter. All right, I'm going to move that the board grant the petitioner's application for a special permit, subject to the conditions. This project will require compliance with the floodplain bylaw, a building permit, and final as-built and a certificate of occupancy. Based on the findings that the applicant's proposal to construct a 24-foot by 24-foot deck, a 5-foot, add 5 feet to create a 12-foot by 14-foot entryway, and an 8-foot by 22-foot second-story front addition on the property located at 11 Adams Road, as depicted on a hand sketch plans, no date or signed by an architect or draftsperson, and proposal addition plan by Merrill Engineers and the Land Surveyors, Brendan Sullivan, P.E., PLS, showing existing conditions and proposed plan meets the special permit criteria of section 1012 of the bylaw. Do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye. Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well prepared.
Thank you. 2472, David O'Brien. The petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-1012, so 305-1010 and 305-1012 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to construct a 12-foot by 18-foot screen porch over the existing deck on the property located at 73 Eagle Road, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel 111, I-11, sorry, 1603, and is located in the R2 zoning district. Name and address for the record.
My name's Christopher Pratt, 6 Spalding Ave, Situate. I'm the general contractor handling the project.
Go ahead.
All of the houses up there on Eagle Road were built before zoning control. What we want to do is simply, there was an existing deck there, which I received a permit to rebuild the deck itself. The former deck was in disrepair and unsafe. The homeowners would like to make that a screened porch, not closed in, just a screened porch. There's 3/4 inch crushed stone underneath. And like I said, all those houses up there were built before zoning control. So none of them meet the setbacks. We just want to add some space for them to be able to sit out there. As you guys probably know, it's pretty buggy back there. There's a house being built right behind them, which is, the road for it is now under construction. This screen porch would afford them a little bit of privacy rather than sitting on a wide open deck. And that's kind of it.
Okay. Andrew, you believe, after getting the site plan, that this needs a variance?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Bob, did you looked at this as well?
I think this is a new house, and the abutter to the rear is the town, and it's its water tower. The water tower's in the rear, so I agree with Andrew. I flagged the same issue. I think it requires compliance with the stormwater management overlay district, and it looks to me, and Andrew and I discussed this earlier today, that by adding more than 200 square feet to the existing dwelling, you have to comply with that bylaw, and in order to get a special permit, you're going to have to deal with that too.
That's not the discussion that I had with Andrew, which I've been over it with him a few times.
I can comment on that.
Yeah.
And that's because I was never presented with an actual site plan that showed the building area, the size of the addition, or anything that was stamped. It was all just discussions at the window. You never gave anything concrete to go off of.
I had a site plan with me the first time we discussed it and had drawn in the existing deck.
But again, you can draw it in and that gives you the initial thing, but until I actually get a site plan with an application to the zoning board of appeals, I can't give any kind of official determination on anything. You know, once it's official and it's shown here, right here, that this is showing that it's non-compliant. And I didn't see this until last week when Nancy sent it to me.
So Andrew, I'm looking at this plan that's stamped by Greg Morrison dated October 15th. And it notes that the rear setback's 40 feet, and the structure has a setback of 28 feet, and the deck has a setback of 14.1 feet. This house was constructed in 2003.
This house was not constructed in 2003.
According to the assessor's field card, it was.
Is the deed, say?
This was a residential lot of record, so they were allowed to
Yes.
build the house without compliance with the dimensional requirements.
Okay.
So this wasn't a grandfathered house in the traditional sense. This lot was buildable because it had more than 50 feet of frontage on a public way, on a way, and it had more than 5,000 square feet, therefore it didn't have to comply.
So it didn't have to comply with any setbacks when it was
Didn't have to
built?
comply with the setbacks when it was built, correct. So now it doesn't have the benefit of the residential lot of record situation. Now you're looking to modify a pre-existing non-conforming structure because it doesn't comply with the side yard or the rear yard setbacks.
So isn't, it because it's a non-conforming structure, isn't that a special permit versus a variance?
It's a special permit to increase if you find that it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. But the problem is, it's a variance because it doesn't comply with the stormwater management bylaw. That's
Even though it's an open structure?
Oh, see, the stormwater management thing, it's not, it's got not, in my.
It's not, it has nothing to do with the dimensional standards per se.
It's the stormwater.
Correct.
Okay. And what, I'm sorry, forgive me for being clueless. What are the stormwater standards from which
well,
he needs a variance?
There are performance standards in the bylaw, and the permit granting authority is Andrew Stewart. It's not the zoning board.
Aha!
So if they can
Ball's back
show-
in your court, Andrew.
If the plan shows compliance, which this doesn't, if they can create a plan that shows compliance, then all they would need would be the special permit and compliance with the stormwater management overlay district bylaw.
So could we extend this and give him a chance to try and come back with something that
Yeah, I
works
mean,
with Andrew?
So what would
it's-
compliance be for stormwater management?
You have to go over that with Andrew.
Yeah,
To go over that with Andrew.
I'm sure Greg can do some calculations. I mean, it's stormwater, so he's probably to show recharge.
What's the reason for that? Because putting a roof?
It's because that whole area in Telegraph Hill,
Yeah.
particularly that area, is notoriously bad soils, and water washes off and
Yeah.
destroys things down gradient.
Yeah, when the glacier came through, the soils were so bad, that hill stayed while everything
It's
else.
probably the worst drainage area in town.
Yeah, it's just terrible, terrible soils.
So they created this so that people that are further down the hill don't get wiped out.
Yeah.
Would you like
And
us to extend you some time so you can go back and work this
Process
over?
all of this
Yeah,
information.
Greg was under the impression that because I have the 3/4 inch crushed stone underneath and around the deck, that would suffice. But obviously, I have to talk to Andrew about that.
You have to give him a plan
I have to give Andrew the plan showing.
with calculations that show that it meets the standard.
Okay,
Yeah, the impervious area under the pervious doesn't work.
Right.
it's around the pervious as well, so I'll discuss it with Andrew.
But the requirements for this are in section 1304.
Okay,
But the good thing is, it really only requires approval from Andrew, but there are some kind of rigorous performance standards.
So how long?
so I've got to
do
go
you think
through
you'll
Andrew first, then come back to you guys.
need? Correct. How long do you need?
A week.
All right, so Nancy,
next
can we-
meeting?
Can we put on for the next meeting?
For November 26th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
You
so,
know, can I just make a suggestion? So these plans in the stormwater district are rigorous. I mean, you have to show like every tree that's greater than 6 inches in diameter. And it might make sense to kick it for an extra meeting, because I think if you went to Greg Morrison, he's terrific. I don't think he's gonna be able to do all that probably without going back out for a site visit.
Chris, I would recommend that Greg come to the meeting too, if you have a meeting with me.
Yeah.
do you want the next meeting or the meeting
You want to
after?
do the 26th?
You want
If they don't have it,
26,
then
and
you
if
can
you don't have it,
extend
you just
prior.
extend again?
Yeah.
All right, so,
Nancy, what is the meeting like in December?
It's very light. And then after that, it wouldn't be until after the first of the year.
So I think December makes more sense. What do you guys think?
I'm
but if we
thinking
let him, then we can
If
just
he
kick
gets
it
to the
again.
26th, he can't do
Yeah,
it, then he
if
can
we
bump
could
it
do the
out.
next, because I'd love to, I'm going to be busy at the end of the year
Yeah,
too,
we
so.
can just kick it
Okay,
again.
I think Greg can get it done for me. He's doing the site work behind for the house for the water tower. So he's out there with his crew pretty much weekly. So I think he can get out there, do the site visit, get the numbers together for me.
Well, if it doesn't, we can just move it again.
All right,
I move to extend 2272 73 Eagle Road to November 26th. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye. Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Thank you.
thank you.
See you in a couple of weeks.
So 1190 Ferry Street, we're just moving that, right?
You request to continue, yes.
Yeah. So how much time does he need?
I think I put the date on there, January 14th.
January 14th? Okay, so gonna move to extend. Oh, do I have to open it?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. Can't see. 2473 1190 Ferry Street. Oh, I'm reading Andrew's thing. This is not a valid. All right, so Eagle Road, 2473 Patrick Carberry. In accordance with 305 1009 of the Marshfield Municipal Code, the petitioner is seeking an appeal of the building commissioner's notice of violation for a non-compliant modification of a flood-proofed structure and violations in the Marshfield floodplain bylaw on the property located at 1190 Ferry Street, which is further identified on the assessor maps as being on parcel I-15-2419, is located in the R3 zoning district. So I'm going to move to continue this to January 14th, 2025. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
All right. Now we're on to 2474 Grady Goldberg. The petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-1012 of the municipal code to raise the existing front roof line to the same height as the existing back roof to create an 8-foot by 6'2" two-story addition on the front of the property located at 66 Leland Road, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel M080416. It's located in the R3 zoning district. Name and address for the record.
Grady Goldberg, it's my wife Ashley Goldberg. We're at 66 Leland Road, Marshfield, Mass.
Go ahead.
So we are seeking to increase the size of our the front half of our house, just to level it up with the second half of the house so that we can continue living in it with our 3 children, well, 2.5. And in addition, the front right corner of the house, we would be putting an addition of 8 by 6 feet 2 inches. Presently, that area is covered already by a deck, so we're not actually requesting any further variance as far as the setbacks go. In fact, we might give back a foot or so on the setback by moving the deck a little bit. The front setback, that is.
Any questions on the board here?
No, you're on a 5,000 square foot lot. You don't have a lot of room to work with, so you're going up, which makes the most sense. You're not creating any new encroachments. You're actually going to reduce the encroachment of a deck, and you're going up a story, staying within the same footprint.
Correct.
Any questions from the audience? Nothing else on the board?
No, I'm good.
All right, seeing that there's none, I'm gonna move to close 2474 Grady Goldberg, 66 Leland Road. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
I'm gonna move that,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna move that the board vote to grant the petitioner's application for a special permit. Subject to the conditions, this project will require a building permit, a final as-built, and a certificate of occupancy. Based on the finding that the applicant's proposal code to raise the existing front roof line to the same height as the existing back roof, to create an 8-foot by 6'2" two-story addition on the front of the property located at 66 Leland Road, as shown on a plot plan for 66 Leland Road, Marshfield, Mass., dated August 28th, 2024, by C&G Survey Company, Michael P. Clancy, PLS, meets the special permit criteria of Section 1012 of the bylaw. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conley, aye.
Mac-
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're having a half a house.
2475 Sonia Conway. Petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-1012 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to remove the 21-foot by 10-foot attached lean-to and construct a 30-foot by 12-foot single-story addition on the property located at 189 Main Street, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel G090205A and is located in the R2 zoning district. Name and address, height, name and address for the record.
Hi, Sonia Conway. I live at 189 Main Street.
Go ahead.
So I originally met with a contractor. It's an antique home, and I love it, and we want to preserve the antique nature of it. There are a number of issues with an aging barn, the 2 lean-tos that currently exist on the house, and so I originally met with him. The lean-to that we are proposing to remove is actually separating from the barn, and there's an incredible amount of rot. The barn I can't address right now because it's more of an expensive item than I can deal with. So as we talked, we were talking about taking that westerly lean-to off and repairing that back facade of the barn. And given how small the antique house is in the front, we only have 1 bedroom or 1 bathroom. It was in the assessor's database, it is assessed as a 2-bedroom house, but yet when we bought it, the homeowner at the time had put their bed in the lower front living room because they couldn't actually make it up the stairs. So it was able to sell as a 3-bedroom house. We only have 1 bathroom, and we're proposing to extend that summer lean-to on the northerly side, which has to be updated because you can see in the photo where the roof line of the barn meets the westerly or the northerly lean-to room. There's a big gap of about 2 inches and water's making it in there. So as we just talked a restoration project, he and I were talking through, it'd be great to have an additional bathroom. My sister and her family do visit, so to only have 1 bathroom, which is adjacent to our living room, sometimes makes it difficult to just have privacy. And we're proposing to extend that room backwards and to marry the 2 roof lines and then preserve the integrity of that western-facing barn facade.
Just for clarity, when you said western facing, that's the one with the wreath on it? Sorry, you changed.
I'm sorry, could you go back? I guess technically both are westerly facing, but there are 2 lean-tos, which
Yep.
makes it a little confusing. So there's one directly western facing, which has that octagonal.
Yep.
I think it's 6, maybe it's 8. And then I call that one the northerly facing one with the wreath on it.
Gotcha.
We would extend that, and the only place we could put a bathroom that they could marry into the septic is off of that back addition. Just wanting to, the house is very cobbled together, so we're trying to work with the existing roof lines and marry things in to look as much in keeping with the traditional antique house that it is.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
No, you don't see this as often trying to renovate a house like this.
Yeah.
I'm hard of hearing, so I can't.
Oh,
It's not often you see the renovation of a house like this, so I think it's a great idea. It's gonna look nice.
If I had a check for $1 billion, I'd give it to you right now.
If you had a check for $1 billion, I would lovingly preserve every piece of this house. I feel like a steward of the property.
Yeah.
And it was a gift to me to just continue to maintain until my time there is done. I don't want to ever see it torn down, or I think it's rare to find such beautiful antiques in Marshfield, and I just feel privileged to be there, so.
I agree.
Sorry to be sentimental.
No, no.
No.
I also have, I'm just going to plead with you, I've only ever rescued elderly dogs. We're on our 12th, and to have an addition, oh, he made it to the photo, oh my
yeah,
God.
he's in the picture.
To have an additional, just a shower stall to wash them in the summer would be huge, so, anyway,
This is a
thank you for your
beautiful
time.
example of a rambling New England farmhouse.
We love it. I'm blushing.
Great job. All right, so anything from the audience? Seeing that there's none, I'm going to move that we close 2475 Sonia Conway, 189 Main Street. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye. Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
I move that the board vote to grant the petitioner's application for a special permit, subject to the conditions. This project will require a final as-built certificate of occupancy, based on the findings that the applicant's proposal to remove the 21-foot 10 attached lean-to and construct a 30-foot by 12-foot single-story addition on the barn on the property located at 189 Main Street as shown on a septic system as-built plan for 189 Main Street, Marshfield, Mass, dated April 12, 2021 by Morse Engineering Company Incorporated, Greg Morse, P.E., meets the special permit criteria of section 1012 of the bylaw. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye. Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Joy.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right, so that's it with the main stuff, right? Nancy?
Nope.
No.
What am I missing?
Cornhill Lane.
Cornhill.
35.
Like I said, that's Cornhill Lane is next. 2476 Gretchen Amadon. What's that? The petitioner is seeking a variance in accordance with 305-1011 of the Marshfield Municipal Code for relief from 305-602, 305-610, table of dimensional and density regulations for a special permit in accordance with 305-1012 to construct a 20-foot by 20-foot garage and addition to consist of 375 square feet of living space on the property located at 235 Cornhill Lane, which is further identified on the assessors maps as being on parcel A170202 and is located in the R1 zoning district. Name and address for the record.
Gretchen Amadon, 48 Western Avenue in Hull.
Go ahead.
So it's, as you described, I mean, there's two issues. It's a non-conforming lot, so we're requesting the ability to renovate the house with the addition of about a 20 garage and entry hall. And then this second issue, and you can see there, that the variance relates to exactly where you just passed over. So in order for the addition to sort of be straight, it encroaches by just 9 inches into the variance, so or into the setback, excuse me, so that's why we were requesting the variance. It's for about a 20 feet distance. The topography of the lot makes it a little, like it's set up on a hill, and we're trying to maintain some of the existing foundation where it's not needed to be repaired, so that was the rationale.
So this is a 9-inch variance, again?
It's an encroachment of less than a foot.
Right,
Correct.
It's an encroachment of 9 inches for a distance of less than 20 feet into the setback.
Correct.
I'm sure that you watch other zoning board meetings,
Of course.
and
What's more
recently,
interesting?
I watch them on a loop. And recently, we had someone that was
Very
in front of us, similar situation. And there's an expression in the law, de minimis non curat lex. The law does not concern itself with trifles. And I would submit to this board, although historically I am
Against.
adamantly opposed to the granting of variances. However, in your case, the 9 inches, I believe, meets the definition of a de minimis standard. And I don't see that, I think that you meet the standard of a de minimis variance.
If it's at all helpful, that lot that it's behind it, like the neighbor's lot or house is way up by the front, so it's all woods back there, like there's nothing going on, like where I'm proposing, so.
The neighborhood is more of a consideration with the granting of a special permit. But
Okay.
that's not the case here.
Okay.
So do we have anything else from the board?
Just the thought, I mean, it's on a hill, right, slopes down to the river.
Yes.
And you said something about not changing a foundation. Because of the slope, you worry that maybe water would intrude. That creates the topography that would require us to grant you the variance on that?
Potentially, Tom, you would,
Sounds about right.
The property slopes front down toward the back, right?
Down.
Toward the river.
yes.
Yeah.
So anything else from the board? The audience?
We're direct butters of the property.
Okay.
I'd like to say if it's only a 9-inch.
You have to come up to the mic, please.
Oh, sure.
Name and address.
It's Chris Powers. I'm here with my wife Jill. We're at 215 Cornell Lane, directly abutting the property. And if it's only a 9-inch variance, it's okay with us.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah. Thank you. Anything else?
This is a very unique lot.
Marcia, you got nothing?
Sits back.
Go on, Marcia, as a former member.
Marcia Noyes, 130 Cornhill Lane, former member of the zoning board. But I know this property needs to be updated, but what is that tan area on the plan? Is that the existing barn, or garage, or whatever you're calling it?
No, that's the screened-in porch.
I'm sorry.
The screened-in porch.
Oh, that's part of it's going to continue to be part of that building?
Yes.
So where is the picture of the existing garage?
The ADU, are you able to move?
Expand it a bit? I didn't bring my,
So that's a proposed garage that would be attached to the house, but there's an existing ADU or garage, which I'm not planning on doing anything to. Sorry, if back on the survey, it will show it.
Oh, down closer to the beginning of the driveway.
Exactly. Yeah, so if you can,
A little building
Bring it
down
up.
there.
Yeah,
Keep scrolling, Andrew.
No, it's,
The mini storage.
there you
Here we
go, right there. That's the existing garage, which I'm not doing anything
with
to.
it yet.
Yeah.
I guess other than, I guess there's not too much technically I can comment on, except you want to continue to keep the ambience of the whole town, not whole town, but in our area of the town. And some of these, even though that house is it's probably built in the 40s, it still stood for how many years? Anyways, I don't have any really negative, I don't have any technical area to say I oppose it, but
Yeah.
I hope it's keeping within the history and the current attitude of the Cornhill Lane.
Yeah, I think you'll find it'll run very understated and sort of blend in with the landscape, so,
We'll wait, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Welcome back.
Yeah.
Crystal Gould, 995 Union Street. I'm on the corner of Cornhill Lane, so I'm part of the hood. I'm going to support Marcia's comments. I don't have anything technical to hang my hat on to say I don't agree with this, other than I really, really implore you to keep the fabric of the neighborhood. It's a very quiet, or it was a very quiet scenic road where people rode their horses. I walk my dogs, elderly dogs, rescue dogs, and I just implore you to keep the fabric of the neighborhood in mind. The traffic has picked up immensely, the litter has picked up immensely, so please.
in terms of, sorry, what specifically are you asking me in terms of the aesthetic of the house?
The aesthetic of the house, the removal of the trees, I don't know if the North River Commission actually opined on that. I thought they had jurisdiction over the removal of the trees, so there has been already some change in the aesthetics, and there's a shell of what used to be Jim Dow's house. It's just a shell. There's really not even a roof on it, I don't believe, any longer.
Part of it,
Yeah, so it's just aesthetically, it's already changed, but I'm just asking, as you go through, keep that in mind, that it's a designated scenic lane where people ride their horses, kids ride their bikes, we walk our dogs, and just the additional traffic already is just game-changing. So that's my request.
Well, I haven't lived there, so I don't think I'm responsible for the additional traffic.
Well,
but I can do
there's
on the
already,
other-
there's already with the construction trucks going up and down, and it's not just your proposed project, there's another one going on the same street.
I see.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I have one more.
Oh, sure.
My other neighbor. Do you have a letter from her abutter?
I'm having trouble hearing you.
She's asking if everyone saw the letter written by Carolyn Wang to the board?
Yes,
Yeah.
I did.
Okay.
It's on,
see it?
it's
It's
on
it's
record.
up there on the board. It's up on here, board, as the board does.
I'm just reading the first
Do you have a
part of.
copy of that? Did you get a copy of that?
No.
I got it later this afternoon, I'll get you.
Yeah, I'm just reading the first part of it. I have a 3-bedroom septic, so, and I have 3 bedrooms in the main house, so there's no way I could convert anything else on the property.
Well, you don't have to respond to
Okay.
future anything.
All right.
Anything else?
Anything else from
I mean,
anyone?
this house was definitely in need of a renovation, and you're doing a lot here, and I think you're gonna fit it right into the neighborhood. You're investing a lot of money into this property. It's a beautiful spot, it's a beautiful street. I live on the street myself.
I'm like, do you live over
Yeah,
there?
it's a gorgeous street. The neighbors are great, and I think it's gonna fit right into the.
Most of it.
Yeah, it's gonna fit right in. I mean, it's a beautiful spot, it's a very unique lot. I mean, I think the only people in the world that can see you are your neighbors uphill.
Yeah.
And as long as it appears that you're doing good by them, they showed up and spoke in support of you. And again, it was an older home, it was beautiful as it was, but it definitely needed a redo, if you will, so.
Yeah.
And she's a dog lover.
I'm sorry?
And she's a dog lover.
There you go, you'll fit right in, yeah. And the horses do walk it up and down the street all the time. It's
Yeah.
one of the nicest streets in the town.
Yeah.
Good luck.
All right, anything else? Seeing that there's none, I'm going to move that we close 2476 235 Cornhill Lane. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye?
Heidi Conway, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
All right,
Andrew
so,
have anything else?
oh, I don't think
Did
so.
we ask him?
I already asked. I'm going to do with the variance first. I move that the board vote to grant the petitioner's application. Did I do that right? No, that's a special permit.
Right here.
Is the variance underneath?
Right under
Oh,
it,
there it is. So, going to move that the board vote to grant the petitioner's application for a variance Subject to the conditions, this project will require a building permit, a final as-built certificate of occupancy. Based on the finding that the applicant's proposal to construct a 20-foot by 20-foot garage, in addition consists of 375 square feet living space on the property located at 235 Cornhill Lane as shown on a plot plan by Grady Consulting LLC dated October 18th, 2024. Timothy Bennett, PLS. A proposal foundation by Grady Consulting LLC dated September 23rd, 2004, showing a 9-inch of foundation inside the side yard setback, and Reno new garage plans designed by R&R Design of Sagamore Beach, Mass. Dated 8/1/24. 6 sheets, meets the variance criteria of section 1011 of the bylaw. Do I have a second?
Okay.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Coney, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mike Brothers, aye.
Aye.
All right, now I'm going to move that the board vote to grant the petitioner's application for a special permit. Subject to the conditions, this project will require a building permit, final as-built, and a certificate of occupancy. Based on the findings that the applicant's proposal to construct a 20-foot by 20-foot garage, and in addition, to consist of 375 square feet of living space on the property located on 235 Cornhill Lane as shown on a plot plan by Grady Consulting LLC dated October 18th, 2024. Timothy Bennett, PLS. Proposed foundation plan by Grady Consulting LLC dated September 23rd, 2004, showing a 9-inch of foundation inside the side yard setback. And Reno new garage plans designed by R&R Design of Sagamore Beach, Mass. Dated 8/1/24. 6 sheets, meets the special permit criteria of section 1012 of the bylaw. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Coney, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mike Brothers, aye.
All right, you're
Thank
all
you very
set.
much.
Thank you, good luck.
Good evening, thank you.
Thank you for coming. That's it. So is that everything now, Nancy, except
No, there are
for-
two more things. There's approval of minutes from October 22nd.
Oh, that's
And then
Larry's.
discussion about the ADUs.
22nd? Make a motion to approve the minutes from the 22nd.
Second?
All those in favor? Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Coney, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mike Brothers, aye.
2105, what's happening with that?
They're the 26th.
Okay.
So is that it? Nancy,
And
other
now
than
just the,
ADU?
yeah.
All right, I had Andrew review this. We've all taken a look at the ADU bylaw. Kind of wanted to go over it. Andrew had some ideas here. And just my own opinion, it's just that, well, I'll let Andrew speak first, then I can go to it. You want to go ahead, Andrew?
Oh, we put it up there. I've got my phone.
Yeah, he's got it up there.
I'm okay with you going ahead first, Brian.
Oh, okay. So basically, we have the residential accessory dwelling unit. And I was, we hadn't seen this, and we all took a look at it. The draft is from September. Obviously, I think a lot of the stuff in there is good, but I don't understand why this needs site plan approval when it's the law accepted by the state. And if it does need site plan approval, I think it should be direct to the building department. Because, if you're going to get a building permit for a new house, an addition, a garage, an accessory accessory building, a shed, pool house, you don't go to the planning board, you go to the building department. So, and Andrew reviews all that stuff that goes with that. I attended a Zoom meeting from the state. Nancy, when was that?
I honestly don't remember.
Well, they went, it was a couple-hour meeting.
Yeah.
They went through, really walked through a lot of this stuff with us. And it seems like most of these are, the of right, meaning the 900 square foot and under accessory dwelling units go through, going through the building department. And I thought that we should have a means to still have the ability to go larger than 900 square feet, which we currently do in our bylaw, 40% of the existing home, and to give the ability for people to go somewhere, and I believe it says in here, you need a variance in here, currently need a special permit, which I think it would make it easier on the people trying to get it, so. I don't know if you guys rolled through this like I did, but, you know, just like to discuss it and see if we can't make some
So you didn't want the
changes to
planning
recommend to Greg. What's that?
You didn't want the planning board to
Well,
be the acting.
it's not that I don't want them to be.
What is the objective of this entire law? What is the objective statewide?
Right.
It's
I can comment on that, Brian.
Thank you.
Increase housing.
Ultimately, the objective is to provide more affordable housing for people. And that's whether it's, you know, a single person looking to have an apartment, or it's maybe a family member, you know, whether that's a child that's coming back to the house, or whether it's a child that is now trying to provide some housing for their parent or a relative. Or they just want to establish an apartment or a dwelling unit on their property, which they can get some rent out of, and you know, so really that's ultimately the, you know, the crux of this law and why they've been doing it, and I think it's to bring uniformity across Massachusetts, which almost every municipality has their own variation of an accessory apartment or in-law apartment, and it was kind of designed to bring uniformity to the whole state, and give a baseline for what is allowed by right in any municipality in Massachusetts. You know, I've been pressing for this type of thing for years now. Especially because there are so many illegal, detached accessory dwelling units in Marshfield that have been converted over the years without building permits, without zoning approval, and now they're just kind of there. They've never been inspected, you know, they're not taxed, all sorts of things, right? So I've always pressed for this to happen so that we could kind of bring everybody into the fold, get these things inspected, have them account towards, you know, our housing stock, all sorts of stuff. But, you know, one of the things that I've noticed, or and I'd like Bob to chime in on this too, in all the trainings that I've gone to, you know, and I've gone through a lot over the last year on this, they talk about the special permit aspect of it. If you want to have multiple accessory dwelling units on the property, then that is where you would have a special permit process. Or if you want to have something over 900 square feet, then that would be a special permit process. And that's one of the things that's lacking in this bylaw, is we don't have a special permit process at all set up for any of those things. And quite honestly, I'm in agreement with Brian. I don't understand why this requires site plan approval with the planning board. I mean, we could see tonight with the stormwater management overlay district, it just, you gotta submit a site plan for me to review, and I will review it according to the bylaw, you know, and let you know what kind of relief you need, whether that's a variance or site plan approval or special permit, or whether it's allowed by right. And that's part of the building permit process. That's what our bylaws are set up. You apply for a building permit, or you apply for a demolition permit. It triggers historical, it triggers zoning, it triggers conservation, it triggers Board of Health. The trigger for all of these things really should come from the building department. And, you know, what I think is more, you know, when we've got stuff where we're kind of arguing with the planning department over site plan approval for WRPD stuff, I think the site plan approval should be with the planning board for WRPD. They handle much more things related to drainage and site plan and topography and all these other aspects of the, site plans, stormwater management, all those things, retaining ponds. They deal with that stuff far more frequently than this board does. And so they're set up way more aptly to handle the water resource protection stuff. And yet this is really kind of way out of their bounds for what they do, in my opinion. And I don't know that any other towns that are really going through their planning board for this process. I submitted in my comments what Worcester did last year, and they did create a special permit process for ADUs over 900 square feet, for any other variation to what is allowed by right. And I thought that was kind of one of the best towns that I, researched as to how they're handling it, and that's why I included it. And I know that I just put these, my comments up today. JJ said he wasn't able to read it over email. And if anybody else had that problem, I'd be happy to kind of go through it with you.
So, Andrew, I have a question. Do you know why Greg wants it to be in planning? Like, is there a reason behind there? Have you spoken to him about that as to why it would go there? Because now people come
I do
here.
not know what the specific reason is for
I was
why
at the
it
meeting with,
goes to planning.
Okay.
then Greg went through all this, and he wanted it put on as a line item. It's not there for the planning board approval, more of a notification, is the way I understood it.
Don't they get
But that's
notified
not what this
anyways?
That's what I was gonna say. Now, when a
That's
building
not what
permit
this
is
is.
pulled, wouldn't wouldn't the planning board be notified of
Just
the
like they
full
do
packet? It
stuff
goes around to all
here.
the departments. Planning board would be one of the departments that would get the building permit package, if you will. So this, to me, appears to be kind of redundant. They're doubling up on it. This would be
Right,
the
you're already
second
getting a
time.
building permit.
From my perspective, if the goal is to get more of these things built, sending people to the planning board is going to gum up the works, slow down the process, and cost
Increase the
people more money.
Yep.
And it's
I
under the
think-
Affordable Homes Act.
The,
Got $200 filing fee.
yeah, it's to
Well, and all the
streamline the process, which is the goal. Send them to the ZBA, and the ZBA will get it done if their ducks are in a row in one hearing.
But you don't even 900 and
No,
under,
you
you
go-
just go straight to him.
So if it's
Or just
over
go
900,
straight to Andrew,
Yeah.
sure.
So,
If it's over 900, they would,
Yeah,
he's saying
but
to
you
go
would
to
s-
planning, but normally they would come here.
But
Yeah.
over 900, you should still have a
By
vehicle
right.
Yeah.
to
Right?
get here.
there's,
Andrew, you
there is
should
no
have
vehicle in
jurisdiction.
what was proposed here
It
for anything
shouldn't,
overnight.
in my opinion, it should not be with the planning board.
Okay. And I have a question with number 13 in the draft, pre-existing non-conforming accessory buildings, which I know that you addressed in yours, Andrew, shall be moved to
Yeah.
conform the front, side, and rear setbacks when used for an ADU.
It's
That is
ridiculous.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that is, not that I say that another board's suggestion is ridiculous, but I just think that that is a lot of a
will.
burden on,
I agree with
An
that.
applicant.
I wrote that, but I have something even more fundamental, which is in section A, under purpose, there are 4 words in there, through site plan review, that I just don't agree with. The law that I read from the state says it's a right, by right. It doesn't say a right by site plan review, it says it's a right. Now, the law says the towns may impose site plan reviews and Title V requirements and may impose all these things. Not that, this is just automatically assuming we're going to,
Meeting is the 17th.
which I think is, again, is just more steps in a process that we've already determined is somebody's right.
Absolutely.
And I mean, go ahead, Andrew. Sorry. No.
I made some changes today, and a lot of it actually was based off of the stormwater management overlay district, because that was something I was looking at, obviously, with the hearing that we had. And it had to do with the applicability, and this is where they talk about putting in the application and the site plan review and all that. And I thought it was more apt to say, very in line with kind of a lot of our other things, that it's subject to review by the building commissioner, but applications shall meet the review standards, and applications that are deemed complete shall be reviewed by the planning board, Board of Health, and the DPW for recommendations. And that is where you would handle stuff like density, septic systems, WRPD, the things that those boards regulate that would prohibit an ADU from being allowed by right because they don't have the capacity to handle that ADU on that property for whatever, legitimate reasons there are. And that's their opportunity, is in that 21-day period to provide comments back to the building department after they've received the application, which is standard for the vast majority of all sorts of permits, and pretty much everything that comes before this board goes through that process beforehand.
And currently, Andrew, so if I want to build a new house, I want to put an addition, I want to build a garage, I go into the building department to get all those permits, correct?
Yeah, you get the determination as to whether or not that's allowed by right, or what type of relief you need from the zoning board of appeals, or whatever permit granting authority it is at that point. And then you would go to get that relief.
But you ultimately hand the permit out for all these things. So I just think this is, I don't understand the premise. I've read through this. I like a lot of your notes. And, I sat in on that 2-hour meeting. You were there, Nancy was there. I think Greg was there. But I don't, we have to have another way, because currently we allow larger than 900 square foot accessory, we allow people to have units in their house that are over 900 square feet, and I think we should at least have a way to do that. We currently do it through a special permit. I think that should be maintained, anything over 900 square feet. But I think anything under 900 square feet should go directly through the building department.
Over 900, you think should come back
come
through
back
us?
to us.
Yes. Right.
Well, I think Greg was trying to come up with something where it would be a variance. I didn't see it in there. Bob, did you see anything to that effect?
I'm not exactly sure what you're asking me.
All right, so did you see there's an opportunity to still go larger than 900 square feet in Greg's proposal with a variance? Because that's what I thought I heard at the
Your
original
board
meeting.
could grant a variance if it was asked.
What's that?
Your variance could grant a variance if it was asked.
Yeah, so you'd have to come here to go larger than that.
Correct.
I just don't understand why, if you're gonna do anything with ADUs or accessory, any sort, why would it leave the zoning board of appeals? I guess I'm confused.
Why would it leave the zoning board of
Yeah,
appeals?
like why? If by right, I get that, you go to the building
First of all,
department.
I didn't participate in any
No, I
portion
know.
of this.
I'm just
okay?
asking, like, if it normally is if the new law is gonna say by right, this is what you get to do, and you can go to the building commissioner, like, why would it leave anything with that, other
Mo-
than what by right?
Most
Yeah.
communities don't have the ZBA decide site plan review. Most communities have planning boards decide site plan review issues. There are some communities that still do it, but it's few. Marshfield's one of the few that still has site plan approval. And the reason why that changed was because in most smaller towns, and I still think Marshfield is a small town, they have a planning staff, but they don't have like
Right.
Andrew's a building commissioner with a zoning enforcement authority, but he's not a planner.
Right.
So they use the resources of the planner to kind of review plans, and that's why they have it. I mean, years ago, I used to go to Pembroke, and Pembroke ZBA was the special permit granting authority and the site plan approval authority. And I'm in the middle of like 4 things, and they took it away at town meeting and they gave it to the planning board because they didn't like the decisions of the zoning board.
Is that what's happening here?
No.
All right, I just
No,
want to put it on the
Marshfield's,
table.
Marshfield's planning board already has site plan of approval authority in a whole bunch of circumstances. Anything that goes on in the PMUD, anything that goes on in the Water Resource Protection District, things like that. I think it's a policy matter for the town to decide, do you want this to be with the planning board, or do you want it to be with the zoning board of appeals? So that's what town meeting will decide.
But in the meeting, Bob, most of the towns and most of what the state was saying is they were gonna have a separate meeting for just the building commissioners to go over this.
Well, look, I've been a part of one town that's already passed this change, Stoneham. Stoneham is gonna follow state law only, and they're gonna allow by right. You gotta meet the dimensional requirements of the bylaw. You gotta connect, Stoneham is a sewered town,
Yep.
so they don't have any Title V issues. Marshfield's gonna have Title V issues. If you wanna add another 1 or 2 bedroom ADU, and you've got a 4-bedroom system, you can't build that until you expand your sewer system.
Right.
And if you're in a nitrogen loading area or a sensitive area, you're gonna have to probably put nitrogen reduction because you're gonna be over what Title V allows you to be in that area anyways. So I think that, and I haven't spoken to Greg about this in terms of why they decided, but I think they decided that because the new law authorizes or still allows site plan review, still requires Title V requirements to be met, still requires dimensional regulations to be met, meaning setbacks from property lines, and the bulk and height of structures, and prohibitions on short-term rentals, because these can't be used for short-term rentals.
Yep.
They can be detached or attached, but they can't be used for short-term rentals, which is basically anything less than 30 days.
Right, they explained all that.
So I think that's why the planning board felt that there should be some site plan approval so that there would be some, you can't deny site plan approval, ever. You can put some conditions on it that are consistent with this, with the bylaw and not offensive to the new state law, but that's it.
Bob, I'm hearing what you're saying, and everything that you're saying is something that Andrew can do in conjunction with the Board of Health doing their job.
Right.
And that's, it sounds like it's 99%, 95% within Andrew's jurisdiction and 5% in the Board of Health's jurisdiction. And this has nothing to do with the planning board, other than the planning board wants to have their bite at the apple. And I understand that they can impose conditions,
We're not
but
asking.
we all know imposing conditions is, there's a cost in both time and engineering. And I just, again, the objective is to get these things built.
Look at Stoneham, which is a smaller geographic community with the similar population, far more dense than the town of Marshfield, decided that they were going to allow these by right, strictly in accordance with the state law. And they're not allowing them bigger than 900 square feet, but it's again, it's a more dense
It is what
community
it
with
is,
smaller lots. And, you probably can't have something that fits on a lot that's detached that's greater than 900 square feet on anything other than, a few dozen lots up there, because it's 5,000 square foot lots. But
I guess I'm just concerned that when people go to town meeting and they hear this, they're not gonna understand what they're voting on, and that if it goes to the planning board and where it normally goes, I think
this
that's
is what I
my
told the
concern.
voters in Stoneham. If you do nothing,
It happens.
there will be a brand-new set of laws, and that's what will apply.
Right.
Or if you turn it down. If you approve it, then you impose some regulations. There might be an opportunity to change some things, but, you're gonna deal with scope of the article issues if you radically change some of these things. So the idea is you gotta engage with the planning board.
Well, that's why we
Did
met
we
tonight,
invite
is,
them
tonight we went over this ourselves, then we can send these recommendations to them. And then the advisory board meeting is on the 17th.
I do take issue with number 13.
I mean, it's just, to me, there's some, just things in here, like
I don't think
that
it's gonna
whole
make
thing
it any
about
easier for
moving-
people.
moving a building, it just,
And is anybody keeping track of
well, Nancy
these-
currently does.
I'm just asking for.
Track of.
Like, all of these ADUs that will be coming up, and also any houses that we do right now that have accessory dwellings, do we keep track of them for any reason? Is there?
Yes.
The
We
building
do.
department does.
Well,
We keep track of
Andrew
all
does.
of those.
we do.
Okay.
I mean, because typically they've been a special permit.
And you have to renew it every year.
Right.
Most
That
people
won't be
don't.
required anymore.
Well, I know, that's gone. I'm just saying that, I think we should have the ability to move this, have a vehicle to get over 900 square feet, because we currently do, and I don't think you should have to move a building that's
Can I
pre-existing.
give you guys one example, a real-world example?
Sure.
So we have there's a house on Ashford. And they are
That's for
trying
sale
to
right
sell. And a couple of years ago, less than 10 years ago, so it's within the statute of limitations, they did a kind of an illegal addition to a shed and created an accessory dwelling unit that somebody was living in for several years. And all of a sudden, they went to go sell it this year. And they're selling the property as a, house with also a little, shack that's habitable. And, when that came across our desk, we were like, well, no, that's not allowed. You've got to either remove all the habitable aspects of this shed or apply for a variance or appeal the violation to the ZBA. And one of the questions was like, well, can we wait it out till January? Well, you could, but according to this bylaw, because that house is within 5 feet of the lot line, you're gonna have to move the whole structure in order for it to comply. And like I said, there are tons of these places, right? And I think that it would be a good opportunity for us to legitimize a lot of these pre-existing non-conforming accessory dwelling units through a special permit process and not through a variance process. And right now, the way it's setting up with us not creating a special permit, the only way they're gonna be able to do anything different than what's allowed by right and on this bylaw is through a variance.
Brian, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think we get another problem. If everybody that built an illegal shed decides they're gonna wanna convert that into an accessory dwelling unit, you're gonna have people that are literally 1 foot off the line and I'm not sure that's a good idea for anybody. Everybody's gonna wanna convert their shed into a.
Yeah, but that's not what we're saying, is it would become a special permit, Bob, or you'd have to look into, so it would be reviewed.
Will you allow them by special permit to be 1 foot from the
No,
property line?
that would be a variance,
No, but
obviously.
I also don't think that if something's already out there, that someone needs to move it or whatever. I think that going back and
You know,
looking
the-
for things, I think
The
is
problem
looking
for
like
like,
trouble.
that Andrew's probably had is a lot of people buy a shed and it comes constructed and they throw it on the ground and never get a building permit. And Andrew couldn't possibly catch all the people that have done this.
I mean, it's a beach community. It happens all the time. We see that.
Andrew, to your point, there are a number of illegal or extra legal dwelling units that are not fire code compliant, that are probably not Board of Health compliant. And if there was a way to legitimize those, number one, to pick up the fire safety violations, but then number two, to pick up the tax revenue, that would be a huge opportunity for the town of Marshfield, as well as for the property owners. Right now, the cheapest home for sale in Marshfield is $440,000. That's the cheapest single-family home. It's ridiculous. 2 teachers working in Marshfield couldn't afford to buy that house. And that's the least expensive house.
Well, the good news is, no matter what happens, on February 2nd, you're gonna be able to go in and get a accessory dwelling unit.
Right.
If this doesn't pass. By right. If you 900 feet, you can have, you're gonna have to get a building permit, and that's how Andrew will determine whether they have safe cooking, sleeping, and sanitary facilities.
So, I get the whole thing, and I do understand it, and I think it's good to have some regulations in place, and that you should be by right, because I think there's a lot of families that have to live with one another. Do I think it's probably gonna be abused for a while? Probably, most likely.
Well, just so you know, Rockland has allowed accessory dwelling units by right for the last 5 years in 3 of its 4 residential districts, and frankly, no one's building them.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, is even with our current law, the only people we see are people in tough situations that are, looking to do it. The family member's sick, they're taking care of a family member, they need this. And, we used to have the 3-year restriction on it, which was ridiculous. Someone gets sick, they gotta live 3 years to make it in there. Thank God this board was essential in getting rid of that. But I think we should at least have, one of our members or meet with Greg and Andrew and go over this. just to see what he thinks of these ideas, I mean, I know he had the public meeting and Larry attended,
Yeah. Well, I think with going to the planning board, to me, it's redundant because it's already doing that through the building permit process. And if something is existing already and it conforms to our current bylaws, it has all the setbacks, it's not a shed 5 feet off the property bounds, that those should be taken into consideration when they come in. Now, when it comes the law in February, I think, something that's pre-existing like that, if they want to go through the permitting process and get it legitimized, of course, something, a shed 5 feet off the property line, no one's gonna want that, no neighbor's
No,
gonna
nobody
want
wants
that.
that. We didn't even want it tonight. I
Yeah.
mean, that's why I think it meets, there's standards here. We have standards, which is the 10-foot setback. That's what I'm saying, is but there's gonna be some homes that exist, I think what Heidi's saying is that, not sheds, she's talking about structures that have a foundation in that, you know what I mean? So I think, it's just, I think there needs to be a little bit discussion with them to say, these are some ideas we have, what do you think, can you incorporate them?
Yeah.
And if not, there's always the advisory board meeting and town floor, so.
I think your board, if you have a consensus, ought to meet with the planning board.
All right.
Because if you don't do it, and tank them on the floor, all it's gonna do is make everybody more confused. That's what's gonna first of all happen.
People aren't gonna know what.
Why is the zoning board fighting with the planning board over this?
Right.
And you ought to see whether you can convince them to change it.
Confusion is key.
Why do we have to convince them?
Well, we could have a joint
They're
meeting.
It's clear,
proposing this,
that's like-
so we have to have a conversation with them.
Why don't we propose
Has to
something?
be
That's what
on
it
their
said.
agenda and go in as a board, you publish it at a meeting, just attend, they'll put you on the agenda. They're not afraid to discuss things with you. If you feel strongly about an issue, make an effort to resolve it so that the people that get a chance to vote see if there's some consensus.
Nancy, do you have any idea of when the planning board meets next?
I don't.
It should be next.
I can tell you.
I'll look real quick.
Anything to say?
I agree with Heidi on number 13. I think that is a over the top.
Well, I think it's just,
I mean, if you look at I'm currently struggling with this because I have in-laws that are paying $5,000 a month in rent for an apartment that they have to climb stairs up to get to. You know what I mean? I'm personally trying to find somewhere for them to go, and it's impossible to get a house for them. So this is something that has to pass and something that needs to be accessible for everyone.
right.
Yeah.
I think they're meeting next week.
Yeah, they meet next week, so how do we invite ourselves over
No,
there?
you, right, as the chair, can the zoning board join you at your meeting? And if a quorum of you are going to be present, which I suggest you should have a quorum
Right,
present.
I would agree.
You should post your meeting at the same time so that you can have a debate and deliberate.
All right,
All of you could go, or a majority of you could go.
okay. Lynn, do you have anything? Sure. Well, come sit down, why stand?
I can attend by Zoom.
You can sit in the chair.
I'll come here.
Bob, can I ask a quick question? Would it be a violation of open meeting law for the members of the ZBA to email me their thoughts individually?
Yes,
On the bylaw?
yes,
And for me, they would?
yes.
Okay,
It's communicating through an intermediary. You can't do that.
all right.
Hi, Lynn Fiddler, 77 Brook Road. I attended the 25th meeting for the planning board that discussed the MBTA, and then further on in the meeting, got to the accessory dwelling units. I'd like to recommend that this board does a really in-depth dive into what was said that day. Just a quick synopsis from me, since I happen to have it in front of me. The state has made additional changes to Chapter 48 of the Zoning Act. The changes were focused to two things. First, the definition of accessory dwelling units, and second, adding certain exemptions for the creation of accessory dwelling units by right in single-family residential districts. So I could continue going on through this. It would be a lot of reading for you guys, but I think that it's important that the town understands, and it's clearly outlined at town meeting, and I can commend
our friend and coworker and resident, because Greg really did a superb job outlining what needs to be done. So in light of that, I'd like you, as a board, to take the recommendation of town council, delve in like you have today. I wish it was earlier in the process, but it's never too late. But so I appreciate you guys coming here, because this is critical to the town, and whatever happens, the town will make their vote at town meeting, and I'd like to see that be well thought out by the town, and have it clearly outlined. But I would recommend that you spend some time not only looking at what's proposed, but looking at the explanation of how it was explained. And there was a few questions that were part of that process, and Larry can attest to that. They were great questions. So those questions would not obviously be in this, but perhaps they're in the recorded message, but I'm not sure about that. So thank you for getting into this tonight, and I appreciate all of what you guys do. So the town council will certainly steer you down the right road. Okay? Any questions for me?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
So
We'll get it right.
Nancy, we'll invite ourselves, or ask to be invited. We'll set up.
Just
a
ask to
meeting.
be invited to the
Yeah.
next meeting. I'm sure they'll put you on the agenda.
It's ridiculous.
And, make sure you go with enough people to know how you
Yeah.
feel.
When is the
Okay.
next
You
meeting?
should bring a dish.
The 13th.
Don't show up empty-handed.
Bring cookies,
December
Apple pie.
13th is the
not
next,
ring on muffins.
So it's next what?
November 18th, next Monday.
next
Well,
month.
that's the day after the advisory meeting, though. Oh, no.
Well, it's Monday,
Can't be,
so-
that's Monday, all right.
I think the advisory meeting is the 19th,
19th, you're right.
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
That
All
would
right.
be the day before then.
Exactly.
So it's November 13th, this room.
No, 18th.
18.
Yeah.
18.
Okay, Nancy, we'll send something over to ask if we'll do a joint meeting.
This is a nitpick. I know we've talked about a lot of these things, but number 12 has always bothered me, which is limit it to 20 feet when we have a bylaw
15
right
feet.
now.
Yeah.
Now, in height, 20 feet in height.
Oh, the 20 feet.
But it allows for an accessory unit building to be higher than that if there are greater setbacks. But this doesn't say that. This just says it's 20 feet, period. Regardless, if it's a 40-foot setback, an 80-foot setback, a 100-foot setback. So there's stuff like that.
How is that measured?
Right.
Because you've got floodplain issues, so.
I'm just saying, it's just, I read things in black and white, and that says it's 20 feet, where we currently have in our bylaws, an accessory building can be greater than 20 feet with greater setbacks.
Right.
Is that right, Andrew?
Yeah.
Yeah, in my opinion, it should read something similar to.
Yeah.
Detached accessory dwelling units shall meet the same dimensional and density requirements of an accessory building.
And who knows all of this better than you, Andrew? That's why in my mind, that's why this should be your jurisdiction.
Andrew, did you have any of these conversations with Greg already? About these ones that you have concerns about?
They didn't ask any of my opinions, they just gave me what they had proposed and gave me notice that they were having meetings.
So you didn't have any conversations, is my question. You didn't have any conversations?
Not actual conversations about the structure or, of what was going to be in the bylaw. No, I basically it was presented to me.
So we can invite Andrew too, right? Obviously.
Andrew's free to go to any meeting that he'd
Yeah,
like.
good, okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Are we done then?
So when is the next town meeting in which this new bylaw?
December.
December 16th.
16. Thought it was 15. Just want to make sure I get it.
No, they can absolutely amend.
Move to adjourn?
I'll move to, second?
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye?
How you going? I guess I'm done.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
They can do it.
Provenza, aye.
Thank you.